Hello there. I want to explain to you this strange looking supply curve, which is called the backward bending supply curve of labour for an individual, this is. And what does that mean, this backward bending supply curve? It implies that as wage rates rise, at first a person is prepared to work more, but at very high wage rates, they actually supply less of their time for work. We can explain this strange looking supply curve, the use of the substitution and income effects. So, let's explore this. Well, first of all, for an individual, as the wage rate rises, they're willing to work more. We can see that at wage rate 1, an individual is only willing to supply Q1 of work. At wage rate W2, they're willing to supply more hours of employment, Q2. But at very high wage rates, maybe at wage rate 3, they're willing to supply Q3, but if they get a wage rate increase to 4, they actually supply less, quantity 4. What's going on here? Why is this happening? Well, the reason is that at all wage rates up to this point, let's call this big W, at all wage rates up to this point, the substitution effect is outweighing the income effect. Above that, income effect dominates. It outweighs the substitution effect. What are these effects? Let's start with the substitution effect. The substitution effect is that effect that occurs when we give up leisure time as we are willing to swap leisure time for work if the wage rate is high enough. You see, we have a choice to do what to do with our limited, scarce time. We can work or we can have leisure. It's assumed that most people would prefer not to work. They prefer to have leisure than work. But we're willing to give up our leisure time at a price. If the wage rate is attractive enough, we'll be prepared to give up 1 more hour of our leisure time and use it for work. Now, as that leisure time gets scarcer and scarcer within any 24-hour period or within any working year, as the leisure time gets scarcer and scarcer, the substitution effect says that we need a bigger and bigger wage rate to be prepared to give up the next marginal hour or day of our leisure time. But we will do it if the wage rate is right, says the substitution effect. So it's substituting work for leisure. We're giving up our free time if the wage rate is right. And as the wage rate goes up, we're prepared to give up another hour or day or week of leisure and do more work. But there's also another effect going on all the time as well, and that's called the income effect. And I'm going to write that up here, income effect. The income effect works in the opposite direction to the substitution effect. The income effect says something like this. It says, we have a target level of income that will provide us with the lifestyle that we wish to live. And we will work enough hours, days, or weeks, or years in a working life. We will work enough time to earn the money to deliver that lifestyle, to deliver the income that can pay for the lifestyle we want. Now, if our wage rate goes up, we don't need to work as many hours or weeks or years in our life to achieve the lifestyle we want. So, perhaps at very high income levels, if our wage rate goes up, we will actually work fewer hours and earn the same target income that we were looking for and enjoy more time as leisure time. For example, let me put this question to you, as I do to many of my students. Ask yourself this: how much money would it take for you to never, ever, ever have to work ever again? How much money would it take for you to have enough money to fulfill every single wish and desire that you could ever want for the rest of your life, and for all of your friends and your family and everything? How much would it be? $1 billion? 10 billion? Let's imagine that it's even $10 billion. $10 billion. It's a lot of money. but that could probably keep you going for all the things you ever wanted for the rest of your life. Now imagine this. Imagine you are offered a job and the hourly rate for your job is $10 billion, the exact amount you need for the rest of your life. It would be a logical, rational action of yours to work for 1 hour, earn your 10 billion, and then retire. You wouldn't work for a second hour. You wouldn't work for the rest of the day. You wouldn't even work for another minute. You'd work for 1 hour, you'd collect your money, and you'd spend the rest of your life enjoying yourself. Now, you're just about to start this job when suddenly you're stopped and you're told that the wage rate has just gone up. It's doubled. You're now going to earn $20 billion every hour. What should you do? You work for less. You work only half an hour. Then you can retire. And then you'll still have $10 billion and you can enjoy it for the rest of your life. So you see, as the wage rate went up from 10 billion to 20 billion, you choose to work less time. It seems odd. You might think that you would just work for a couple of hours and maybe collect the rest of the money, but you'd have nothing to do with it because we've already established that 10 billion was enough for you for everything you could ever want. So why waste any more time working? I think this goes some way to explain some of the things we see going on in real life. Perhaps when we see film stars choosing to take 6-month holidays. Why do they take 6-month holidays when they could be earning millions and millions and millions making their next big movie? Perhaps it's because they don't need the money anymore, they prefer to keep the leisure time. Or perhaps more mundanely, but more commonly, why is it that so many people retire early? One of the reasons they're retiring early is this income effect. They've managed to reach their target income, they've managed to put up some sort of pension scheme or savings, and they are able to stop work early because they earned enough. It's generally people who are high earners who are able to retire early, whereas those who are on lower income have got to work right up to the point where they get their state pension. So you understand perhaps a little better now that the income effect actually creates this strange supply curve. Well, in fact, both effects are occurring all the time. It's just that the substitution effect is dominating at lower wage rates and the income effect dominates at the higher income rates. What is this magic sort of turning point where the income effect starts to dominate the substitution effect? I suppose it's different for all of us, and of course we have to think about whether we're talking about hours in a 24-hour period, or days in the week, or years in our working life. But I'm sure it will be different for everyone, of course. One thing worth considering is that in most jobs we don't have the flexibility to decide precisely how many hours we work. That's pretty much dictated by the employer, who tells us you must work 35 hours in a week, or you must work 47, 48 weeks in a year. So we don't have that flexibility to test. But it might be an interesting exercise to see whether people would be prepared to give up some hours as their wage rate goes up. We only really see it amongst those who are getting a high enough wage, of course, but also have the flexibility to choose when they work, like, film stars, or when they retire, like high-income earners who've planned ahead. Anyway, I hope that goes some way to explaining the positive substitution effect and the negative income effect and its creation of this strange, backward-bending supply curve of labour. Okay? Don't forget to go to my blog site. You'll see the details in a minute on the screen. I'd really like your comments there as well as on YouTube. Okay, thanks very much. Bye-bye.